Hi, my name is Afric, and I felt really compelled to start taking or keeping a video log of my withdrawal from a drug called Abilify or Aripiprazole, which I think it's more commonly known as in the UK. I've been having a really hard time. I have been looking on the internet to find other people's stories to gain a bit of comfort in the hopes that I would feel that I'm not going completely insane. And I haven't found very much. I think one of the real difficulties with the internet is that when you start searching for things, you tend to only find really negative, scary stuff. A lot of the stuff is saying that, I may never get better from this, or that it could go on for years. The only one thing that gave me hope recently was one post that I found in kind of a chat room thing, where a man had posted about his partner going through an Abilify withdrawal or an Aripiprazole withdrawal, and that she was in a terrible state. And then he kindly reposted or put an update on a few weeks later to say that she had come through it and that it had taken 7 to 9 weeks to come through. So that's why I'm here. Both to help anybody that might be out there that's in the same position as me, but also I think to help myself a little bit so that I can look back on this to see how I'm doing myself. So a little bit about my story. I think I've always had mental health issues, probably revolving around trauma from early life and later in life. I think I'm quite a sensitive person. I've been searching for answers for years about my up and down moods, my proneness to depression and anxiety. I went to a psychiatrist about 4, 5, maybe 6 months ago. And he, after taking my case history, told me that I was perhaps a little bit bipolar. I guess that he thought this, or he gained this insight because my mother was manic depressive. When I look back on it, I'm not sure that I'm bipolar, and having discussed it with people and really analysed myself, I think a lot of my, low mood and my mental health issues come from the fact that I have suffered from quite a lot of trauma, but that's neither here nor there. With this post, so it's about Abilify and coming off of it. So I decided to come off of it because I had this constant internal agitation going on with it. I mean, initially when I started taking it, I had all of this kind of energy, but I quickly realised that I was in a slightly manic state. But I was okay with that because I can be very low energy, and I took it, carried on taking it because it was great to feel some energy, even though I felt this inner restlessness. However, while I was taking it with this kind of inner mania and this great energy, I was drinking quite a lot, and smoking quite a lot, and smoking quite a lot of weed, which is something that I tend to do socially, or have done socially. But it was something that I was doing a lot, and I was becoming increasingly concerned. And then after about 3 or 4 months, I noticed that my anxiety started to creep in, and it was an inner anxiety that wasn't going, and the tiredness was coming back. And I had this realization that I didn't want to be on this drug because I had this inner restlessness, but at the same time, I was suffering, again from anxiety and depression. So I went to my GP. I explained to my GP. She suggested that I doubled my dose. I was on 2 milligrams, which I thought was a small dose, but in fact, apparently 2 milligrams is a normal dose of Abilify, or aripiprazole. I was on 2 milligrams. I upped it to 5 milligrams. Big mistake. I was still suffering from anxiety, perhaps even more anxiety than before. So then I did a little bit of research that suggested that perhaps I should cut down that dose. So I went from 5 milligrams down to 1 milligram and stayed on that for, I think, probably a week or so before I made the decision just to stop it completely. That was about 4 weeks ago. When I stopped it, I noticed within a few days that I was struggling with depression. I wasn't initially concerned about it because, you know, depression isn't something that's unusual to me. However, shortly after that, I started getting these terrible restless legs, numbness in my limbs, numbness in my hands. And when I stopped moving, my legs would start to shake, and I realized that it was restless leg syndrome. And that was really quite concerning because not only would it happen when I was just sitting down for, you know, half an hour or whatever, but at night it became a real issue. And then the anxiety started. Now, the anxiety was like nothing I have ever experienced in my life, and it was really, really frightening. That has gone on for quite a while. So I'm now in week 4. Now, I have had some okay days, but I have had some of the worst days I think I've ever had in my life, and they were extremely frightening. Now, I am, as I said, in week 4. Yesterday and the day before, I worked really hard on doing a lot of walking, meditating, and really looking after myself. And I felt, you know, a bit better yesterday and the day before, but today I've woken up very tired. Now, I think that a lot of the reason that that's happening is because I was so desperate the other day that I went to the doctor, really desperate, and the doctor, you know, through my desperation, gave me some Valium, some benzodiazepam. So I've been taking one of those at night to sleep, but I've woken up today feeling really tired and quite low again. So ultimately, it's all just a little bit frightening. I feel as though all of the life has been sucked out of me, and normally I'm quite an upbeat, happy person. So this is, as I said, I'm well into week 4 now. I am definitely feeling a little bit better than I was feeling, you know, last week and some of the week before. I was in just the most dreadful state, you know, not being able to sleep at night because of anxiety about stuff for the future to do with my son, like, as I said, I've never felt before. I am definitely feeling a bit better. I am definitely feeling a bit stronger. I am still feeling, you know, very flat, very low, prone to real anxiety. But, you know, I'm here. Is there anything else I wanted to say to you guys? The restless legs have eased off massively. Also, I don't know if this was a symptom of the Abilify withdrawal, but my gums started to bleed quite a lot in the first couple of weeks. Again, if that's something that happens to you, it's stopped. They've stopped bleeding now. Yeah, so I'm going to check back in. I don't know, every day, every few days. As I said, if this helps anybody out there, brilliant. If not, it's just for me to be able to check back to see how I'm doing day by day. Take care, everybody.